sounds that haunt a generation of Europeans. The sounds of a massive air raid, in this case by hundreds of B-17 bombers launched from airfields in Great Britain against targets in Germany. Those raids were credited in no small part with the downfall of Nazi Germany. Now, here at Briscoe Field in Gwinnett County, some of the men who flew those raids are reliving history. They're about to fly aboard a B-17 called Aluminum Overcast.
I felt a little bit giddy last night, like a kid waiting for Christmas.
Harvard Niffen hasn't flown in a B-17 since his missions as an enlisted bombardier during World War II. He's looking forward to this reunion with the bomber, almost as if he were about to visit with an old and trusted friend.
I hope they let me sit in the nose.
It's a familiar place to Niffen, the nose of this legendary bomber. He sat there for hours on end during 23 bomb runs over Germany. He flew the plane the last few miles to its target, and he dropped the bombs, even in the face of enemy fighters and curtains of anti-aircraft fire.
They knew where the flank was going to be, and we still had to go through it. We couldn't go around it. And if you go above it, they could set their shells to go that high.
Think about that for just a moment. The way it worked during World War II was that the B-17 crews flew straight and level during their bomb runs. They couldn't deviate. They couldn't avoid enemy fighters. They couldn't avoid flak. For many crews, that meant flying into the face of almost certain death, and yet they did so to deliver their lethal bomb loads and, in their minds, hopefully, shorten the war.
We escorted the B-17s and the B-24s. I just saw too many of them go down. Saw a lot of parachutes come out, and some without any parachutes coming down.
Bob Powell was a P-51 pilot during the war. Although he's here at Briscoe Field to see this B-17, he doesn't want to get on board. For him, this winged warrior carries too many ghosts.
I saw a B-24 one time take a flak burst right into Bombay, and nothing but little pieces went down. And it's kind of heartbreaking. But to see all those guys, and those guys really had a lot of courage, because on the bomb run they had to stay straight and level and at a normal speed, and they were very vulnerable and to the flak, and so it was just awful to see him go down.
One pilot who went down with his B-17 over Germany was Kenneth Powell, no relation to Bob.
I'm on my third mission. I was shot down over Munich, Germany.
Kenneth's eyes mist over as he looks at Aluminum Overcast sitting on the ramp here at Briscoe Field.
We were flying at 28,000 feet, just scooting over the tops of the clouds. It was raining on the ground. Flak hit the two engines on the right and knocked them out, and it was all we could do to keep the plane from going into a spin. Flak damaged the Bombay, and then the fighters were shooting us up. Me-109 was shooting 50 calibers from the behind, and bullets would come in and hit the seat. We had a steel plate behind a pilot and co-pilot seat. Those bullets would hit it and knock it up against us. We'd just sit there and look at each other and wonder if we're still alive. It also knocked out the two engines on the left. So when we didn't have any engines left, we had to bail out.
Kenneth Powell spent more than a year in a German POW camp before he was liberated. Aluminum Overcast taxis away, then takes off into the warm skies over Gwinnett County. When it returns, a surprise. The P-51 pilot, Bob Powell, climbs down out of the immaculately restored bomber. He went up after all.
I was next to the waist gunners, and I was thinking about those guys firing those guns and all those shells falling down. They were standing on these shells and firing at enemy airplanes coming in on them. That just blew my mind. I mean, I saw a lot of B-17s go down, but I have more envy for these guys now than I ever did.
In the presence of so many ghosts, the airman Powell saw shot out of the sky. Perhaps for him, flying aboard Aluminum Overcast was a tribute to the courage of those with whom he flew. Perhaps in no small way, taking that flight more than 50 years later was an act of courage on his part as well. At Briscoe Field in Lawrenceville, Pete Combs, News Talk 750, WSB.